Let's bring in our first panel, Liberal Senator James Morrow and commentator Caleb Bond. Welcome, gentlemen. Now, as I was saying before, U.S. inflation has hit 9.1%, a 40-year high. The cost of living crisis isn't going anywhere. Senator James Morrow, how long until we see similar numbers flowing through here in Australia?
Well, I hope we don't see similar numbers in Australia, but you and I know we are going to see higher rates of inflation. Whether you go down to your local shopping centre, I've just come from Cairns at the Cairns show up there, everybody is talking about how expensive living is at the moment. And what worries me is we've got a government in Canberra who spend their time blaming the previous government. And if I had $1 for every time one of those ministers said, oh, the former government, I'd be a rich man and be able to buy a lot of Rembrandts. What these jokers in Canberra fail to understand is they are the government now. The buck stops with them. They are in charge. They can't keep doing the blame game. So what happens in America, what happens in Europe, it's going to end up impacting us here in Australia.
Well, Caleb, that brings me to my next question. Labor was elected on fixing the cost of living problem. Some would call it a crisis, and I think that's not too strong a word. But, are they up to it? Do they know what they're doing with all of this?
Well, at no point during the campaign, when Labor kept campaigning on reducing the cost of living, did they actually have a plan to reduce the cost of living. And the only things they put up, which governments tend to put up to quote-unquote reduce the cost of living, is pumping more government money into the economy, whether it be to, reduce the cost of childcare by providing subsidies, etc. The only response governments ever seem to have is to throw more money at the problem. And as we know, that just results in higher inflation. They literally throw fuel on the fire at a time when fuel is so expensive. And that's exactly what's happened in the US. I mean, you played that clip before, James, of Biden saying, how low inflation was in the US compared to the rest of the world. Well, for one, that is crap. But I mean, a year ago, he was saying that this was temporary, that we would not continue to see high inflation. A year on, it only keeps going up. In December, he said, OK, well, we've sort of hit the peak now. Again, wrong. It only keeps going up. And last year, Biden, good old Sleepy Joe, threw $2 trillion at the US people with his Get Out scheme or whatever he called it, the Rebuild America thingo, $2 trillion. Now, he already knew at that time that inflation was on the rise. It doesn't take an economist to tell you that when you throw large amounts of government money at people, that they will spend it, and that will result in the price of things going up, and that causes inflation. It's pretty basic stuff. But no one, Biden, the Labor Party here, no one has a plan to do anything about it. And without a plan, it'll just keep going on up and up and up, and they'll keep blaming other people. I'm sorry, that doesn't help anyone.
And Caleb, you say that they blame other people. James Morrow, I have noticed a bit of a trend here. Here in Australia, Labor says, we came in and this is the mess we were left. In the US, Joe Biden says, it's Vladimir Putin's fault or it's somebody else's fault. What is going on here with these leaders, and I use the word a little bit under advisement here, who are so quick to blame the economic conditions on other people and not actually grasp the nettle of cutting spending? We did see a little bit of cutting spending on the rats, but, on everything else, there's no indication of this happening anywhere.
These people aren't leaders. You should not use the word leaders to describe Biden or the new Labor government here in Australia. What we've got is a bunch of politicians, indeed a bunch of student politicians, who are in charge of our economy and our way of life, and all they know is politics. They are experts at politics. They are not good at making decisions. And what we're going to see over the coming months is a continual blame game of blaming Scott Morrison for everything from a lost sock in the washing machine to climate change to whatever goes wrong in Australia. It is Scott Morrison's fault. And what what we're missing out in here as Australians is actually leadership, of having someone prepared to make decisions, understanding the changed economic circumstances we live in, looking at what is happening in America, looking at what is happening in Europe. We need real leaders. Now, and if the current mob don't want to do it, I'm sure that Peter Dutton would be more than happy to step up and become Prime Minister, and he would make decisions in the best interests of Australia.